My name is Maier Becker. I'm a brother-in-law to Josh and Rifki Lamb, and we'll be learning together the 54th Perek of Tehillim, Perek Nun Dalet. Perek Nun Dalet is part of a cluster of Pirkei Tehillim, which were said by David HaMelech in reference to the time in which he was running for his life from Shaul HaMelech. And in order to best understand the historical context in which these Mizmorei Tehillim refer, we'll briefly review together some of the intermediary prakim in Shmuel Aleph. The story begins with Shmuel Hanavi, who is both the political and religious leader of the Jewish people. And the people come to Shmuel and say, "We want a king, kechol hagoyim, like all the other nations." This request greatly angers and upsets Shmuel, and the Mefarshim struggle to understand what it is that bothered Shmuel so. For the Torah does say, "Som tasim alech hamelech." Whatever the reason is, God overruled Shmuel's protestations and told him to anoint a king. And God tells Shmuel to anoint a young man by the name of Shaul, who was tall, handsome, and head and shoulders above the rest. Shaul is not the natural choice for kingship. Shaul hails from the Shevet Binyamin, the smallest of the tribes, a tribe that waged war against the other Shvatim with the story of Pilegesh Begivah, and which was decimated by that war. And Shaul, in fact, tells Shmuel that since he comes from Binyamin, he shouldn't be chosen. But Shmuel persists and anoints Shaul. Yet even after the anointment of Shaul, Shaul still is reluctant to accept the responsibility of kingship. And in fact, when Shmuel announces publicly that Shaul has been chosen king, Shaul is nowhere to be found. He's nechba ben hakilim. He's hiding and must be coaxed out. And when at the beginning of his appointment there are those who belittle him and say that he is not worthy, he does not respond. So Shaul is modest, perhaps to a fault. And one of the manifestations of his modesty is that he listens to the people to a fault. And in fact, he finds himself in deep trouble when, at the request of the people during the war with Amalek, he does not destroy the sheep, and he does not kill Agag. To which Shmuel says, "For this you will lose the kingship." And he tears Shaul's coat, or Shaul tears his coat, according to various Mefarshim, in symbolism of the fact that the kingship will be torn from Shaul. Now, Shaul is not told who will take his place, so he is, of course, suspicious of everyone. Yet he becomes most suspicious of a young man by the name of David, who was wildly successful on the battlefield. He kills Goliath, and he starts having great success against the Plishtim, to the extent that people refer to the saying, "Hika Shaul ba'alafav, v'David b'rivevotav," that while Shaul was able to overcome thousands, David was able to overcome tens of thousands. Shaul becomes progressively jealous of David, and while at the beginning of his kingship Shaul was deferential and was overly modest, he becomes fiercely defensive of his melucha, and overly and aggressively defensive. So Shaul tries to rid himself of David by sending David on dangerous military missions. But David is successful, and each of these missions make David only more popular with the people, and only further anger and upset Shaul, to the extent that Shaul now decides that he himself must kill David. The story is told that not all the people knew of this strife between Shaul and David, and when David is running for his life, he appears in the city of Nov, Ir HaKohanim, a city of Kohanim, and he arrives at the Mishkan and tells the Kohen that he is on a mission from Shaul and needs help, to which the Kohen provides him with bread and a sword. When Shaul discovers that David has been helped by these Kohanim, he asks no questions, and he kills the Kohanim of the entire city, wiping out the city entirely. It is in this context that we now move to the story about which our Perek in Tehillim discusses. Following the story of Nov, Ir HaKohanim, David runs to Midbar Zif, to an area which is south of Hebron, in the southern Hebron mountains and hills, which is historically the area controlled by and the inheritance of Judah. Of course, Judah is the natural choice for kingship, as it says in Perek Dalid in Parshat Vayechi, Lo yasur shevet miYehuda u'mechokek miben raglav, which is understood to mean that the scepter shall go to the descendant of Judah. Well, while David perhaps is the natural choice to be king, Shaul is the actual king, and Shaul is quite set on killing David. When David is hiding in the mountains around the Zif Midbar, the Ziphites come and tell Shaul, "We know where David is, and we can help you get him." In fact, the people of Ziv do this twice, in Perek Kaf Gimel in Shmuel, and in Perek Kaf Vav in Shmuel. On both occasions, they come to help Shaul capture David. The time period is one in which David is certain that he will be captured and killed. And in fact, Shaul has 3,000 men surrounding David. And it is only at the last moment that David is saved, because a messenger comes to Shaul and says, "You must go to fight battle with Plishtim who are attacking in another location." So while he is surrounded by the people of Zif and Shaul, David says the following prayer. למנצח בנגינות משכיל לדוד. בבוא הזיפים, ויאמרו לשאול, הלא דוד מסתתר עמנו. David says a prayer to God when the Zifim have come to Shaul and said, "David is hiding near us." And David prays to God, "Elokim, b'shimcha hoshieni, in your name save me, u'b'gvuratcha tidineni, and judge me with your might. Elokim shma tfilati, listen to my prayer, ha'azina limrefi, listen to the movement of my lips. Ki zarim kamu alai, v'aritzim bikshu nafshi, because foreigners have come against me." Now, of course, these are not foreigners in the sense that they are from another nation, but they are foreigners in their behavior. Lo samu Elokim lenegdam, they have not placed God's command before themselves. And David says, "Hine Elokim ozer li, Hashem b'somchi nafshi, yashuv hara l'sorarai ba'mitcha hatzmitem, save me and let me see the destruction of my enemies." And then David is certain of the eventual salvation when he says, "V'nedava es b'chalach udeshimcha Hashem kitov, when you will save me, I will bring a korban of thanks to you. Ki mikol tzara hitzilani, because from every difficult time you have saved me. Uvo'evai rata eini, and I was able to see the destruction of my enemies." So here David relates to the time period in which he was almost captured with the help of the Zifim, those who lived in Midbar Zif. And as we said at the beginning, this is a Perek Tehillim, part of a cluster of Tehillim, during which time David is on the run. So we see Perek Nun Bet, for example, L'manatzech maskil David bevo doeg ha'adomi, by Agela Shaul. Doeg ha'adomi helps Shaul try to capture David. And then we have Perek Nun Vav, Be'achos oto Plishtim begat, when David had to run to the Plishtim in Gat. And then we have Perek Nun Zayin, Bivarcho mipnei Shaul v'me'ara. Each of these Perkei Tehillim is a perek that relates to the time period David is running for his life. Now, according to the Midrash Tehillim, which I believe was quoted by other presenters in this series, Perkei Tehillim is felt to be related both to the time and life of David HaMelech, but also to have universal, everlasting messages. And in fact, in Midrash Rabbah Vayikra, David, according to the Midrash, relates to the unique events of this time period and says, "Lishonam cherev chada," their tongue was sharp. "Elu hazifim, dichtiv bahen bevo hazifim vayomru l'Shaul. Oto sha'a amar David, v'chi ma hashchina oseh ba'aretz." David said, if my fellow brothers are against me, there is no room for the Shekhinah, for God's presence in the world. Ruma ala shamayim Elokim. Go up to the heavens, God. Salek Shechinatcha mi binehen. You cannot be in a place when brothers are fighting one another. Sinat achim is not consistent with the presence of God. And this, of course, is a universal message, especially during a time of the Galut, which Chazal have attributed to Sinat Chinam, to hatred between brothers. Now, Sarah Lamb Dratch was known to be someone who loved people, who loved life. She was someone to whom people were magnetically attracted. And she was someone who represented Avat Chinam, love of people just because they're good people, just because they're people. And we hope that in her memory, we will all be zochet to see the Geulah soon and in our time. May her memory be a blessing.